Miami's defensive line is going to have to be elite on August 31st in order to beat Notre Dame.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and post-game host on the Miami Hurricanes radio network. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On this loaded Tuesday episode, Breck Kolojay, Miami offensive line target, has locked in a decision date. How are the Hurricanes trending based on the competition? Carson Beck has made the Maxwell Award watch list. We'll talk about that, but we got bigger fish to fry, including fall camp, which is coming up in just a couple of days. On Thursday, Hurricanes will take that practice field. It is a Truth Teller Tuesday, which means we have Bruce Warner with us. Now, Bruce, you've been taking some heat for the past week because you referred to the Notre Dame game, Week 1, August 31st, as a must-win game. People are getting on you for saying that. What's happening?
Well, I think they misunderstood what I meant. I didn't mean that if they lose that game, the season's shot. It's not what I meant. Obviously, they could lose that. They could lose the first 4 games, and it's not shot because they still have the ACC schedule. If they win those games, they're still going to play in the title game, probably against Clemson. But what I meant was, and I said this last week, I said, you lost 3 out of the last 4. If you lose the Notre Dame game, you've lost 4 out of 5. Don't you think the people, the public, the fans, the media could be all over Mario? Where is this upward trend when you've lost 3 out of 4 and now you lose this game? That's all I meant. It's the perception of losing another game, another big game. That's what I meant. I know this season's not over. I'm not that dumb. I'm dumb, but not that dumb.
I mean, I also think if you do lose, how you lose matters as well. You know, or do you get embarrassed? You know, God forbid you get blown out. Of course, I think Miami can win that game, Bruce, but I also think how you lose matters. If you look lifeless and you get pushed around at the line of scrimmage by Notre Dame, that's a bad look to start the year.
Well, yeah, that's true as well. Look, we won a lot of games last year looking like garbage. Seriously. I mean, that Cal game was one of the ugliest wins I've ever seen. 35-10 and we win. That's what you talked about on that show. You had those 3 guys on. You were with them. And that was an ugly win. And a lot of those games, the Va Tech game was a very ugly win. And I know the defense, we've been saying this all offseason, the defense is so critical. And you mentioned it in your opening. The defense has got to step up, not just the front 4, but the front 7. We need those linebackers, especially Toure, to come in here and be able to stop the run, especially against Notre Dame, because they have 2 really good backs and a Heisman Trophy, probably top 3 guy, Love. He's very good. So if the end of the first quarter, they're running down our throats, we're in trouble. And then again, if you key on him and you stop him, play action is going to destroy our team. We got to be sound on defense. We must be aggressive and we must pressure the quarterback and get in the backfield and stop that Love kid. It's going to be a chess match. I can't even remotely think about how many wins we're going to have this year. I want to see that game in the worst way because then you'll know. Even those guys said on the show, you'll know after the Notre Dame game how this team looks. And then if they beat Notre Dame and they convincingly beat them, that's a heck of a good sign.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So
and I
think that's why I say this is such a big game. You don't have to win it, but you can't get blown out. And you shouldn't lose if you never lead. You're behind the whole game. And no matter what you do, the defense still gives up touchdowns. That can't happen anymore.
Well, I wanted to ask you because you're the defensive line aficionado, and I know you're going to go out to at least one, training camp practice, before, camp is over. Camp starts on Thursday, and then, of course, August 31st, we have the first game. And I know you, Bruce, when you walk into that indoor facility or you're walking out to the Green Tree Fields, you're going to have your binoculars, and you're going to be looking at the defensive line. You're going to be watching their reps. How do you feel about that unit? Do you have concerns? Do you think they're going to be elite this year? What's your take on the defensive line?
I think they're going to be very good. I don't know if the word is elite yet. They're not Cortez and Russell and Sapp and those guys. But you know what? A guy I thought about this last night. I'm glad you brought it up. I don't know anything about David Blay, but he could be a critical factor because he's big. Yeah. He gets in the backfield. He makes plays in the backfield. He could be, not as great a version, but similar to Cortez. And we need that. We know Justin Scott played some last year. We know Moton played better. But if Blay could come in there and do a good job, then we're a lot better off because we trust that Bain and Messidor and our defensive ends are going to get into the backfield. The D tackles are critical, and the D tackles are critical to the Saints, who still hasn't had a spectacular career here, and Toure, who I can't wait to see. So I think they're playing a 4-2-5. So that front six is so important to the success. Do I think the secondary is going to be better? Absolutely. Look at the talent they have now. They haven't played together, but I'm excited about the defense. But then again, I haven't seen anything. They could be great against themselves, but how are they going to do against a well-coached Notre Dame team?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, Marcus Freeman is one of the best in the business. And, for me, I guess the question that I would have, Bruce, on the defensive line is enough depth going to develop where you're 4 and 5 deep at defensive tackle? Because we've talked about this all summer. Like, I know Miami has what appears to be their top 3 defensive tackle rotation. Right. With, you mentioned David Blay, who I think is either going to be a starter or he's the first guy off the bench. Justin Scott, same thing. Ahmad Moton, same thing. I think that's your top 3 rotation. But can Artavius Jones, who is gigantic, I know he didn't play against the toughest high school competition, so he's been developing. Can he become like your 4th guy and a solid option there? Someone that, and I hesitate to pump him up too much because he's a true freshman, but I thought Dante Simpson,
yes,
freshman out of Chaminade, he had a really good spring. You've got some tweeners as well. Like, I think Armando Blunt is probably more of a defensive end, but he can play inside in situations. So, and by the way, Armando Blunt had another really good spring, and he's, a year younger than a second-year guy should be. So I think he could potentially break out, at least become a part of the rotation this year. But are you going to have enough guys where, especially in the interior, because I think at the end spots, Bruce, I think they've got enough to rotate in waves. But
yeah,
can you bring in waves of guys?
I agree with that. Yeah, and God forbid somebody gets hurt from the D tackle spot, then they're really in trouble because then you're relying on absolute youth. But again, I think whoever's the 4th D tackle is going to get some burn early in the season, especially in games 2 and 3, because they're important as the season goes along. Because you can't go through the season and expect nobody to get hurt. But I still think on paper, our defense is significantly better, will be significantly better. We've talked about this a lot. I think we're more balanced. Last year was like 95% the offense and 5% the defense. This year, I think it's going to be closer to 50-50 because I don't think the offense will be as explosive. Forgetting about Cam Ward for a minute. Look at all the plays that those other guys made. Arroyo, right? Restrepo. Brown had some nice plays.
Horton.
Who?
Horton. Isaiah Horton.
Yeah, he was great too. And George was pretty good. But, I think that this year is going to be more balanced. I do think we're going to run the ball more. I do think we're going to see way more screens, which I haven't seen. And I keep screaming about screens. But Beck is a screen type quarterback. He's not looking to throw down the field constantly. He will take the dump off. He will take the short thing. And I still think our running backs are going to get very much involved in the passing game. So I think we'll be – and I'll tell you another guy that I've been watching, Bauman. I think he's physical. He's big.
Tight end.
He's really big. I like him too. He's going to be another clutch third down guy when you need a couple of yards, and he's tough to bring down. So, yeah, I think the offense may be more balanced than last year. And I think the defense will be better, which means our team will be better. I believe that. But again, Notre Dame is runner-up last year. Florida is hell-bent on revenge. We have a game at SMU, and they're well-coached, and they're pretty tough. We have Louisville again. The last 2 games are up north, so not so happy about that. But it doesn't matter. You got to play every game. It doesn't make a difference where it is or who it is. You got to win. And I just hope that they can get off to a good start and take care of business at home at night on a Sunday with the stadium rocking against Notre Dame. And that's where our advantage should be against a quarterback with 0 starts.
Well, I want to talk a little bit more about Miami's offense when we come back, including Carson Beck has just got some big preseason recognition. Will he even be the best offensive player on the Hurricanes, though, is my question. You want to keep it locked right here. We're only getting started on this brand new Locked On Canes. Folks, I've got a pep in my step, and it's thanks to 5-Hour Energy. It is time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. We're talking about 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest. Some days on the course or off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. Guys, I used to, and my grandfather, rest in peace, he used to take me out to play golf all the time. He was golfing into his 80s. When I was a teenager, going out with my 80-year-old grandpa, he was like playing circles around me. I needed 5-Hour Energy just to keep up with granddad. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that's the number 5hourenergy.com. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your first order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order, cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen. For your next listen, check out the portal. Brian Smith does a fantastic job talking all things recruiting. I know he's going to be covering the Breck Kolojay decision in a couple days. He talks NIL. He talks transfer portal. Check out the portal, available free wherever you get your podcasts and free on YouTube. And we'll talk about that Kolojay decision a little bit later on, Bruce. But before we get to that, all right, so on Miami's offense, obviously, when I walk into that facility on Thursday morning, first guy I'm going to be looking at is QB1 Carson Beck, because we didn't see him in the spring. So I want to see what sort of connections and chemistry he has with his wide receivers out there.
Not worried. I think he's healthy. I think they've worked hard. Obviously, they don't have any game experience. He doesn't know how somebody's going to, get off of a jam and things like that. So the timing's going to take a while. That's why I still think they're going to be throwing short. They're going to be throwing screens, and he'll take a shot or two down the field. But I don't think that's the MO for the Notre Dame game. It's keep the ball out of their hands, run the ball, mix up the plays, down and distance them, and maybe they'll throw on first down to try to confuse their defense. But I think the crowd is going to be important too, because that place will be rocking. I know Notre Dame brings fans. They brought fans back in 2017, and look what happened. It didn't make a damn quiet. It didn't make a difference. So, and I think that's going to happen. The place is going to be rocking. It might be really hot the end of August too, even at night. But I think I just think that he's going to have enough weapons. And don't forget, he's never thrown with Restrepo. He never threw to Arroyo. He never threw to these guys. So yeah, he's not missing anything. It's not as if he has to learn from what he had until what he's got now. He's never thrown with these guys, so it doesn't matter. He's working with these guys now, and those are his guys. And he probably will have his favorites and guys he can count on. He'll figure it out. He's a smart guy, and you could tell. I saw your interviews with him. He's very motivated. And the fact that they don't even list him sometimes in the top 10 quarterbacks is even more motivating to him. I'm sure deep down inside, he's not thrilled with all this. But you know what? I'm happy about it. Let him think he's a bum. I don't care. Let him, and then let's see what happens. No, really, that. I don't like when Miami's like these big favorites. I want them to have a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah, I like something that Beck talked about during his press conference last week on how he approached spring ball. And you remember, Bruce, spring football, like Beck was out there, but he wasn't cleared to throw. So he was having to watch the other quarterbacks take reps with receivers, but he talked about what he was doing. He kind of had his coaching hat on during spring ball. And after he would see his receivers running routes, he would talk to them afterwards and sort of tell them things he saw and also give them instruction on what he likes. So the mental reps started back then, right? This was before he was cleared to throw, March and April. Then, last week of April, when he gets cleared to throw and they're able to start the player run practices, that's when he actually starts working with the receivers on the timing, building the on-field chemistry. So that's what he's been up to for the past 2.5, 3 months. And so a lot of work goes into this, Bruce, even though, fall practice, couple days is going to be the first time he goes through formal practices with these receivers. They've been putting work in behind the scenes for about the past 3 months.
Yeah, they have. And I think one thing that we should not see this year is guys breaking their patterns after the quarterback gets out of the pocket, which Ward did almost on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to see the ball get out of his hands a lot quicker. Ward just stood there and stood there and stood there. And I also noticed, because I watched some Georgia film, he likes to run on design plays. He play fakes and he runs. Ward only ran when he had to run. I believe there may have been one design play. I don't know. But Beck will take care of the over pursuit and then go the other way a few times. And so he's also a danger with the ball in his hands. So I like that aspect. He's a cerebral quarterback. He does have a good arm. And look, the only thing that we don't know is we don't know much about these receivers. And he doesn't either. So he's going to figure all this out in the next 4 to 5 weeks.
So the Maxwell Award watch list came out yesterday, and that's, it's the criteria for the Maxwell pretty similar to the Heisman. It just doesn't have, the cachet that the Heisman has, but the Maxwell's a big award. You'd probably say it's the second biggest award in college football. Carson Beck is on the Maxwell watch list. Last season, just under 3,500 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Over the past 2+ seasons, Bruce, 24-3 as a starter. Over the past 2 years, Beck has over 7,400 passing yards, 52 touchdowns over the past 2 years. So it's, not surprising, but I am pleased to see that Beck gets this, watch list award honor list. Anyone else?
Who else is on it? Who do you know? Do you have is Nussmeier, right? He must.
Yeah, he is.
And I bet you the big mouth from Florida State's not on that list. That he's already predicted.
He is. Castellanos. He's
on it.
I feel like that devalues Beck being on the list with Castellanos on.
Oh my God. What about Lagway? Lagway's on it too?
Yeah, Lagway's on it. Yeah.
Well, how long is the list? 40 guys? I mean, come on. How the hell
it's a ton of guys. So I noticed like a lot of teams just have one nominee, like Miami. Florida State's got the one nominee. There are certain schools, I think Clemson, some others have 2 nominees. Do you think anyone on this Miami offense, because the Maxwell usually goes to offensive players, you think anyone's going to have a bigger year than Beck, or does it start and end with Carson Beck?
The only way we could see anything other than Beck would be if Fletcher gets hurt and Lyle goes wild and he gets 1,300 yards.
Well, what if Fletcher goes? Why does Fletcher have to get hurt? What if Fletcher goes wild?
I don't think he's a take it to the house kind of a back.
Okay.
And that's the only reason why. I think there's a lot more of potential for big plays with Lyle than Fletcher. Fletcher's just a bull in a china shop. And I like him a lot. Look, if he stays healthy, he gets 12 or 1,300. But I still don't see him making the spectacular plays with the burst that Lyle has. So that's why I said that. Now I'll catch hell for that too. I'll get all kinds of negative comments.
No. I had to, I couldn't let you get away with that one. I'm like, why can't Fletcher do it? What about? And this is very hypothetical. But I watched spring ball, and a guy who was consistently making plays as a receiver was JoJo Trader, right? What if he steps up and just becomes an absolute difference maker? Maybe he can get himself into like the midseason Maxwell list.
Yeah, that's possible, but I don't know. That's too early to say.
What about Elijah Lofton? Because Penn State had a tight end Tyler Warren, who was all over. He was like 5th or 6th in Heisman voting. He went crazy last year.
Yeah,
and
but
Elijah
who else did they
Laughlin
have
line
at
up
wide
anywhere.
receiver? Who else did they
Right,
have?
they had a bunch of bums. Yeah,
A bunch
you're
of
right.
bums. So, and I don't see that with Miami. I think everybody's going to have like 30, 40 catches or 25, whatever. I don't see that. Look, to me, Beck is the only hope they have on offense. Unless, like I said, unless Lyle or Fletcher has Fletcher can make the top 10 if he has a 1,200-yard season, but I don't see that. I think they're both going to get a lot of carries separately together. I don't know. Yeah, you want to talk about that Kolojay, but I don't see him going to Miami. And why would he? We have so many offensive linemen that they just brought in. Why would he come here? And again, people say he's a 3-star. Maybe he's a 4-star. He's not a blue chip guy.
I mean, he's definitely a 4-star. I don't know. There's one site, I think 24/7 has him as a 3-star. I mean, I think he's a 4. But we'll talk a little bit more about that coming up because there is a significant update on the recruitment of Breck Kolojay, elite interior offensive lineman. It's been on Miami's radar for quite some time. You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes.
Come here, you.
You can just hear that Bruce was talking to his cat. I just like people hear, come here, you. Like, what is going on? Is he talking? Is he whispering sweet nothings in Donno's ear? No, he's talking to his kitty over there. Hold on. Look, can you pull up your new cat Jersey for a cameo? Hello, Jersey.
I just adopted her on Sunday. Yeah, I'm not a cat person. We've had cats before. I don't even touch the cats. Now I got a litter box and all that stuff.
Oh my gosh. Well, you better have a litter box, otherwise she's going on the floor.
I'll potty train her. No,
Okay,
she's
there
a
you
good
go.
girl. She's very good. All right, do your stuff.
Folks, I want to make sure if you're an everydayer here of Locked On Canes, you want to take your everydayer experience to the next level, make sure you become a Locked On Canes insider. I include the link in the show description below. If you click that link, you could try it free for 14 days. You get text messages directly from my phone to yours, breaking news, recruiting scoops, show updates. You know, we were dropping Donno ball predictions the last couple weeks. Cortez Redding, Samari and Wingo, the newest Miami Hurricanes recruits. Sign up free. Try it free for 14 days. Then if you like it, you can opt in for $4.99 a month. Become a Locked On Canes insider. All right, so Bruce, we got a couple days here. 3 days until August 1st, when Breck Kolojay, IMG Academy interior offensive lineman, is going to decide. I know Miami's put a lot of work into this recruitment, several unofficial visits going back to his freshman season because he played with, Francis Maui Noah. He's a few years older than him, used to come down for unofficials with CC and the other IMG guys that Miami was recruiting. At times, Bruce, I would say over the past couple of months, at times it's looked like Miami might even be favored for Kolojay. Georgia has also been in
and
the
he's
mix.
probably not going to either.
Probably not going either. So USC has made a big time surge. Like, I'm not going to say they just started recruiting him, but they've made a big time surge recently for him. But the USC thing kind of makes sense, Bruce, for a number of reasons. He's got friends that are on that team, including Kenai Pepe, who is verbally committed there, who plays on the IMG offensive line with him. And it's also, it's not far from home for him. Like, he plays at IMG, but he's from Colorado. So USC is, not that far, compared to playing, more years in the state of Florida. So, yeah, the recent trends have looked like USC is the team to beat there for Kolojay. I'm not completely closing the book on Miami or Georgia. Like, a lot can happen in a couple days in big time recruiting, but USC seems to be the team to beat.
Yeah, and I don't blame him. Look at who we got. We have 6 other offensive linemen, 6 or 7,
6,
and a bunch of guards. Like our buddy, Cannon Pickett, who we had on the show. We could let the cat out of the bag now. We actually did the interview before he committed. Right? We can say it. I don't think anybody's going to get mad at us. It's over already. But we had him do our interview, but we didn't air it until after he committed.
Right.
But I called his dad and him and his mom. They were all excited to do it, so we did it. And we did it before, but we aired it afterwards. But that's okay. Yeah. He's such a good kid. I hope nothing but the best for him. Right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I can't complain. If Miami does miss on Kolojay, I'd love to have him. I can't complain too much because we also have the best offensive lineman in the country, best player in the country. Right. Jackson Cantwell committed. Right. I know he plays a different position. He plays tackle, not guard, but we're in pretty good shape, like you mentioned, Bruce, on that O-line.
Yeah, we are. So this thing doesn't bother me as much as it would maybe 3 months ago when we hadn't gotten all those guys. But we got a bunch of them in a short span of time in the spring. We knew that Cannon was coming, but he waited a little longer than most. But that's okay. So if Kolojay doesn't come, I'm not going to cry. Now, do you have any word at all on the wide receiver, the LSU kid? Yeah, is there anything? I haven't heard a word in months.
Well, the thing is, my voice cracked there. Gee, I need another 5-hour energy shot. The thing is, on Tristan Keys, he doesn't really have a specific timeline since we're talking about a possible flip, right? I think he's going to wait to see how the season starts. He's verbally committed to LSU. Maybe LSU has a really good year, or if they have a not so good year, he's going to start to look at the others that are in the mix for him. I don't think anything's really changed over the last several weeks, Bruce. I think, you look at a number of Adidas schools who would probably be in the lead because it would give him extra, because he's got a big NIL deal with Adidas, right. But LSU is a Nike school. So, it's not that Adidas wouldn't allow him to play for a Nike school, but for his endorsements in NIL, there's a bigger opportunity for him to make extra money if he's at an Adidas school, which is the case for Miami, Texas A&M, and Tennessee, who are some.
Yeah, you're probably right about waiting. What's the hurry for him? He's probably going to see how teams do. So it sounds to me like when LSU plays Clemson in the first game, we better root for Clemson, even though I'm not a big fan of them.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Yeah, I guess you're right. You know what? You're right. So I will root for Clemson against LSU, but I'll still root for Alabama to kick Florida State's teeth in week 1.
Yeah, me too. And I don't like Alabama at all, but I'm definitely rooting for them. Definitely rooting for them.
But yeah, I think that's the latest on Tristan Keys. We're just in a holding pattern. And the other thing that he knows, like, why would you rush a flip? I mean, and he might stay with LSU. I'm not saying that isn't on the table. But why would you rush a flip when it's not like any of these teams are going to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, Tristan, we don't have a spot for you." If you wait until National Signing Day, sorry, bro, we got all our scholarships are already given out. We don't have a spot. Like, everybody would make room for him. So he's got the luxury of time. He can decide on the very last. He can wait till February if he wants. He can wait till the late signing day.
Sorry. Hey, get out from those bags.
Is Jersey acting up?
Oh, that's one thing. I'm not a big fan of the cats. They're sneaky.
You're running a zoo over there.
She's making all kinds of noise. And I'm in my office. I got all my law office papers here and everything. I don't know.
Also, what happened? Because right before
got in the garbage. Get out of there.
Well, I thought right before the show you locked her out of the office. How did she get
back? Did, but then she was squawking, so I opened up the door again. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, folks. Man, I'm not used to this at all.
Yeah, well, listen, you're an animal person. All right, so give me your last word here, Bruce Warner. When you roll in to training camp practice, after the defensive tackles, because I know that's who you're looking at first, which position group, which players do you want to see?
I want to see who else is playing safety, because we don't know yet. And I still think Damari Brown ought to move over there, although you don't pencil him as the starter at nickel. So if he's not nickel, and we know who the two corners are going to be, why wouldn't he move? Why be so stubborn? He's a big kid. He's not a little guy. I would put him back there and let's see. He doesn't want to. He's not the coach.
I don't know if he doesn't want to. I mean, I think he'll probably he'll probably go wherever he can play, I would imagine.
That's
and the reason why
let him play.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I don't pencil him in, and listen, these spots are all earned on the field, but with Keontae Scott coming in with the pedigree that he has, where he was all SEC at nickel 2 years ago, that's just why I think, hey, that guy might be your best. But Bruce, sometimes I've got a depth chart in my head, and then I go out there and I start watching practices, and my depth chart just gets blown to smithereens. Like it's happened to me a lot. There are certain guys that I think, hey, this guy's probably a starter, or that guy, and then the field will tell a different story when I go out there to practice.
Yeah, of course. We're going to see a lot of changes and a lot of movement because they love to interchange these people. But I think that the linebackers are going to be who we think they are. It's going to be Basaint and Toure. We know who the front four. I don't know which two out of the three D tackles are going to start. I have to say Blay and Justin Scott. That's what I think it should be.
Probably.
I'm a big fan of Moten, but he's going to get in there a lot. So it's the secondary. And really, we already know who the one safety is going to be. So now we have to find out who the other safety is going to be. And there's a bunch of guys that can do that, although we seemingly have more corners than safeties.
Yes.
So, but somebody could move, and I think they'll be okay. Look, I trust our coaching staff this time around. I like the staff. And, I've been talking about Damian since like a day or two before he got here when I knew he was coming here. I'm really excited about the D tackle play. And of course, our Hefferman, the coordinator, who I can't wait to see how we line up and how aggressive we are, which we will see in fall practice. We'll see it. We'll see it for ourselves, but we're only playing against ourselves. But still, they're playing against a massive offensive line. They got big time running backs coming out, and we have Beck at quarterback. So if they look good against those guys, that'll make me feel a lot better. We have a really good shot at all these games because if our defense could just play much better than last year, not a superstar defense, but take the ball away, not let these teams score and not make us have to score every time we get the ball, I think we're going to be much, much better. And I think our special teams will be better. Look at all the athletes we have now that we didn't have for years.
Yeah, no doubt, including, we talk about Keelan Marion, former Big 12 first team special teams guy, and Keontae Scott also has, a history of returning kicks and punts at Auburn. So in a much better spot there. Huge thank you to the Truth Teller. Thanks to all of you guys for making Locked On Canes your first listen. Just so you know, for the next couple days, episodes will probably be in the afternoon. So tomorrow on Wednesday, they've got Media Day, which runs from about 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So like I do last 3-4 years at Media Day, I have a chance to talk to literally every player on the roster. So I'm gonna interview as many as I can, and we're gonna have those interviews for you guys in the afternoon. And then on Thursday, first practice, of course, we'll give you our reaction afterwards. So probably afternoon episodes the next couple of days, but they're going to be loaded with content. So make sure you follow us at Alex Donno on X.
Are you going to talk to the coaches or just the players?
So on Media Day, assistant coaches, and then
players. Talk to Damian, will you please?
I will. I know that's on my to-do list. I want to talk with all the new coaches, including Damian. And so, it's assistant coaches and all the players on Wednesday, and then Thursday, Cristobal's going to speak after practice. So we'll talk to everyone again next time on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.